Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 4, Episode 1. Okay, let's see if I can pronounce this. Valles marineris, or something like that. Wow, I couldn't believe everything I saw in this episode. I was really, amazed, excited. I'm like, crap, dude, that's how you trek right there. Why couldn't all modern Trek shows be like this? You know what I'm saying? Like, after the whole disappointment of season three, I don't hate season three, I'm just annoyed by it because there's a lot of episodes that are just silly, goofy, and pointless and stuff. But I watched this episode and I didn't really know what to expect because I saw the Western clothes, the horses. I'm like, oh, okay, that must be that Western episode. But there's no Western episode. That was just them riding on horses on an alien planet, and the aliens dressed like, I guess, cowboys and stuff like that. And so we got robbed of that. Because that would have been an interesting episode to see, because there hasn't really been like a Western type episode in Star Trek since probably Enterprise. And so I was really shocked and surprised to find out that, yeah, it was in fact the dinosaur episode and stuff. And but not only was it the dinosaur episode, because I assumed that was gonna be the majority of the episode and how they're gonna escape dinosaurs, how they're gonna get back to the present. But then the Martian showed up, and I was just kind of like, wait, what the heck? Where is this going? And with the commander Martian and what they was doing and the resolution to it all and the big decision to make or not to make, I was like, holy crap, this is actually a pretty cool episode and everything. The only complaints I have are teeny tiny little nitpicks, but that's about it. Like everything else, I was just really satisfied with. You know what I'm saying? And you can tell that they've been listening to what the fans said about season three, and they tried to hammer out a pretty good episode. It had a little bit of philosophy to it. It had emotion to it. It had a captain having to make that hard decision in life, which is something I've been wanting to see Pike do because we haven't really seen him do that in a very, very long time because they just have him cooking on the show. And I really love how all the characters interacted with each other, how they all had something to do, except for Palia. Oh God! But she's a guest recurring star this season because for whatever reason she's not full time. And no offense to the actress, because she's lovely and everything, I could not understand what the heck she was saying. And because her accent is so thick and she talks so fast and I just couldn't understand what she said other than electrical tentacles. I'm just like that's the smart engineering Starfleet thing you have to say. Electrical tentacles, like you couldn't even say a tractor beam. Like, come on, you're the chief engineer for crying out loud, and that's like a problem I got with New Trek in general. Doctors don't be doctors, engineers don't really do no engineering. You know what I'm saying? And you rarely see a security officer do any type of security, really. And it's just so frustrating. But then the ending part, well, I'm just kind of like, okay, I can give that a pass. That's kind of neat and everything, you know what I'm saying? It just felt like old Trek. And that's what this show was originally supposed to be. And the first season was kind of like a mixed bag. It was a little bit of new Trek, a little bit of old Trek. And they couldn't quite figure out how exactly they wanted to be. But then, the second season was a heck of a lot better. And then the third season still felt like old Trek and new Trek, but they tried the nostalgia bait way too much. And all in all, I'm just really happy with this episode. Like I'm so surprised after thinking about the third season when I was recording my video today. I was like, ugh, third season, and I'm like, man, I'm so happy right now. There's only one person I've seen hate this episode. Some random woman on like Twitter and stuff. For whatever reason, she just didn't like it. She mostly talks politics, but she doesn't like. But it's not the type of politics you would assume that comes with negativity. So I was really shocked. Just for whatever reason, she just didn't like it. And another standout for this episode was like the commander. I loved her. Oh, the commander and the Vulcan lady. I loved their presence. I loved the way they spoke. And this reminds me of something I said a long time ago. One thing about modern Trek, and that's all the Star Trek shows, I hate how a lot of people sound so modern with the slang and their accents and the way they pronounce certain words, the way they act. Like Ortegas is like a prime example of somebody who speaks like they're in the 21st century and not the 22nd century. Uhura's a little bit like that in Strange New Worlds. And then you got the other Trek shows like Tilly. I'm just like, stop talking like you're in the 21st century. You're in Star Trek. Because this one actor, and I forget his name, but he played Zefram Cochrane in Star Trek First Contact. My God, that's an amazing movie. But anyway, that dude, James something, I can't remember the dude's name, but whoever played Zefram Cochrane, he was in an episode of TNG many, many years ago before he was Zefram Cochrane. And on the video, like an interview for like, the special features of First Contact, he literally said that, when you do Star Trek, you have to become a completely different person. You have to sound a certain way. You need to speak a certain way. You need to present yourself a certain way. And I've always kept that in mind because when I watch Star Trek, sometimes you have people who act very casual or whatnot and very much like themselves, but they still sound like they can Trek. And TNG did this all really well, and other series as well. It's like a certain demeanor you must have if you're in Star Trek. It's the way you say things. It's the way you present yourself, especially if you play like an alien. And these two actresses, in my opinion, nailed that. I just wish the other characters who are actually on the show as main characters could do the same. Like, I'm tired of Ortegas always having those quirky, like, weird expressions on her face. I'm tired of Pike when he's talking to somebody. This is one of my nitpicks for this episode, by the way. The quirks of Ortegas and Pike when he held the alien ship and he's all like, you accidentally put us in a tractor beam, and it's the expression on his face like he's scared to talk to this person. And other times he kept doing that. I'm like, I hate when Anson Mount does that crap. It gets on my nerves. Like, why does he always look like that? Like he's terrified and stuff. You're a freaking Starfleet captain. Man up already. Speaking of which, I've always known his appearance has changed, and I forget exactly how until I saw this picture. This is Anson Mount as Christopher Pike back in season 2 of Discovery all those many years ago. And this is him now on his new show, or his own show. And I was just like, man, it's like night and day, like two different people I'm looking at. Like on the left, from Discovery, he's older looking, his hair looks completely normal, and he's in one of the older outfits. Then when he's in his own show, his hair is all flopped and everything. And you can tell he's had work done on his face to make him look younger and stuff. And it's weird because when I look at him, I see two different versions of Toby. Now, I know what you're saying. Who the heck is Toby? Long time ago, I reviewed a movie called Urban Legend Final Cut. It's the sequel to that of the first Urban Legend. And in there, he plays a sleazy, creepy type character who's kind of like a producer or a director or something like that in college. He's in film school. And he had like jet black dark hair. Because this was like early 2000s. This is over 24, 5 years ago. He was much younger. And I see that version in him in both ways, just completely different. Like I see one version that's older and should look like him, and I see another version that kind of looks like that younger version, but with plastic surgery and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just interesting. I still can't believe he played that character. Now, a lot of the special effects look really good. Like the little space stuff with the flames, that looked really good. I hate it when they kept flipping and spinning the camera around. I hate that in New Trek. I literally got dizzy watching that crap. Like, why? What did they get out of that? I get it. The ship is spinning around. But we don't gotta see the people spin around and everything. And so, like, but yeah, the special effects were really good. The dinosaurs look pretty good, you know what I'm saying? The planet kind of had this red tint to it, which I didn't care for that much. But it was to help with the CGI, I guess. Now down on the actual planet, because there's 65 million years back on Earth when dinosaurs were around. I'm mixed on the CGI, like everything you saw. Like, okay, first of all, the background. Whenever the human characters are somewhere and there's like a background, the background looks so fake. It looks literally like a painting and some really horrible looking trees. But then when you see the dinosaurs doing what they're doing, running around, and there's no humans and nothing but CGI, that's passable, but it does feel a bit like it's in a video game. When the shuttlecraft landed on the planet, that looked like a complete video game and everything. So it went back to that wonky type visual effects. The intro is getting worse. It really looks like a video game and a cartoon at times. And I'm just kind of like, what happened to the freaking intro? Like, it used to be such a good CGI. Speaking of the intro, one of my nitpicks, it took 15 whole minutes for the intro to show up. I don't understand what modern Trek gets out of this, because it doesn't in Discovery as well. You're 15 minutes in an episode and now you're going to show an intro. It feels weird. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like, okay, pretend like you're taking a bath, right? Or a shower or whatever. And you're halfway into your shower and all of a sudden you decide, hey, I'm finna eat breakfast in my shower. Like, it feels out of place. It feels like it's slowing things down. And that's how it feels when they put the intro 15 minutes in. That's so stupid. I really enjoy seeing the old type of phaser blast again. So when they're on the planet and they have to shoot like the dinosaurs, I was expecting them to, like, when they use their phasers, to have their phasers look like Star Wars blaster effects or torpedo effects like they normally do in New Trek. But they actually had a beam. And not only did they have a beam, it made the noise that they did in TOS. So I'm like, about time. Like, that was a nice little, and that's a nostalgia bait I can take. You know what I'm saying? I like that. But you do gotta improve. So I would like the beam, but you can enhance the noise and try to make it sound different. You don't gotta make it sound like TOS, you know what I'm saying? But that was a nice little callback. I also saw the old tricorders, which I've never been a fan of TOS tricorders. That is something that needs an upgrade. I know in Enterprise, I was shocked and surprised to see how tiny and handheld, almost tricornerish, like modern day, that the really, really old versions look like. And I'm just kind of like, oh, wait, I'm getting my centuries wrong. I said 22nd century. I think 23rd or something like that was TOS. Anyway, but yeah, in Enterprise, I was shocked to see how good and tiny and sleek the tricorder looked. And then went to this big, bulky black thing in TOS. This is when they need an upgrade. Don't make it look like Enterprise, but just have something that's a little bit slimmer, a little bit more like handheld. You don't have to be so big. A little tiny monitor screen like and TOS is something more updated. You know what I'm saying? I would really appreciate that. Another nitpick I have is that the way the ship flies. There's something that's been bugging the crap out of me with New Trek, but mostly that uh, Strange New World Enterprise and even that of JJ's Enterprise. It's the way the ship flies. It tends to like hover at times. Like in old Trek, when a starship had to move, it's a big old vessel. It can't just move and spin around like on a dime, you know what I'm saying? You have to like move that sucker, you know what I'm saying? It takes a good while to move it. But every time I'm starting to see the newer enterprises and stuff, they just hover and spin around and go side to side and swash around like they're on a dime and everything. I'm like, that ship is too big to be moving around like a feather. So I wish they would stop that. I mean, yeah, you would kind of assume it could probably move like that with the advanced technology, but it's just so unrealistic. So those are really like my only nitpicks in like the entirety of like the episode. So now I'm gonna get into the episode. So the episode starts off with that of Pike, La'an, and that of M'Benga on that alien planet. And the alien planet looks really, really cool. It's where they dressed in Western clothes and they have horses and their own horseback, just like riding in like the desert. And I know this episode had to do with time travel. So at first I'm like, okay, I know there's dinosaurs in it. But I'm all like, oh, maybe they went to the Wild West as well. Kind of like that Justice League Unlimited episode. But nah, they're just on an alien planet, and it's not Earth, and Pike is just trying to like distract himself. And so like when they board back on like the Enterprise, we find out that La'an's anger is still getting to her, and we still see her in a relationship with that of Spock. Which now you gotta stop and think about. How messed up is this? Kirk and Spock are best friends and they both smashed the same woman. Boy, let me tell you. Well, no, wait. Did Kirk actually have sex with her in that time travel episode? Or did they just kiss? I can't remember. But anyway, still messed up. And so Pike is just down, like he misses Patel and everything. And he's been going on away mission after away mission for many months, trying to like distract himself so he wouldn't have to think about her. And you really feel sorry for this dude because he really truly loved her. And Pike is probably one of the most tragic characters now in all of Star Trek. I mean, he was technically tragic in TOS because, we saw the Cage episode, and then we find out like in the Menagerie or episode like how he ends up in that wheelchair and face is all jacked up, and he just wanted to go back on that planet and stuff like that. And So of course they have incorporated this in this show, and also now he lost his lover and everything, and it's a lot for this dude, and he won't change history. He's just gonna, accept fate and make that sacrifice and everything. And I can respect that, but I could respect it a heck of a lot more if the writers would give Pike something cool to do on the show other than just cook and have silly episodes and stuff. And so with Uhura and everything, she is like trying to mentor this new cadet who's on the ship. And this new cadet is a Vulcan. And for whatever reason, she just doesn't like Uhura and everything. She's snappish towards her. She's rude. She's condescending. When Uhura tries to talk Vulcan to her, she's all like, "Your Vulcan is atrocious," and everything. And talking about like, "You want to get to know me and." Like, so we can compare like what's been going on in the academy, but we went during like two different like time eras, and your events would be different from mine, so there's nothing to bond over. I'm just like, by God, she is rude. Which Vulcans technically are, but not to really try to be mean. They just kind of are. But I really love like how this actress presented herself. All Vulcanish and everything. The way she said things. I did hear a little bit of her actual voice tone come out, but I can like give that a pass. And another thing I've noticed is that normally when they have a female character, they're always rude to a male superior. This is the first time in modern Trek that a female character is rude to a female superior. So I was really shocked that they did that because normally they're rude to like a male. Ortegas and Scotty, for whatever reason, they're having like this catty fight. Basically, Scotty says like, con officers make his job a heck of a lot harder the way they fly the ships, and now he's added all these like noises and beeps and stuff like that, which I didn't hear none of the beeps, but we got the warning signal. The whole beep thing could be because you know how old Trek was in TOS. They press a button, it's this loud sound effect, and there's always these beeps and whistles and bells and stuff always going off. So they are trying to get into more of that TOS feel. And so throughout the entire episode, they're constantly just like bickering with one another and stuff. And I was just almost like, are they gonna start like a romance? I don't think so, cause we see him kiss a black woman in the trailer. Still don't know who this black woman is and everything. So Admiral April, he comes and he like wants to give Pike another mission. And so he sends him to survey some type of space phenomenon, right? And so when they're like observing it and everything, they get a distress call from inside like the space anomaly. Then it like flares up and they get like sucked in and everything. And so when they get like sucked in, I'm all like, oh, this is how they time travel and everything. And so like their ship systems are like down and they need like a special type energy type source, and but they find it on like the planet that's like really barren and stuff like that. And so number one, Ortegas and that of La'an, they all go down on an away mission because number one has been really, really wanting to go on an away mission. Oh, also the Admiral, he offers Pike a promotion to Commodore. I've noticed in New Trek that term or ranking system comes up a lot. They didn't really use it that much in Old Trek, like only one time. So while down on the planet and everything, um, they start to get some readings of life forms, really big life forms and everything. And it turns out to be dinosaurs. And I'm just like, dude, how are they gonna survive dinosaurs? Now they realize they are back in time. They can still communicate with the ship. And so they can't just kill the dinosaur, which is what La'an wants to do. So they have to stun it because, of course, if they kill it, it could change history and all this other stuff. And so there's a really funny scene with Una and everything where she's all like, hey, look, I'm gonna stun it in the mouth. When it's distracted, we're all gonna take off running. And so she's about to fire, but then some pterodactyls show up and distract the T-Rex. I'm all like, that was nice comedic timing. She's getting ready to fire, but now she don't have to. But the pterodactyls get the heck on out of there. So the T-Rex is back on their radar. And it's coming towards her, and she fires, but then it kind of falls, and it falls near her. So you don't know if she's squished or whatnot. And then she just pops on up in a comedic kind of way. It's like, I'm fine. And see, the stun worked. And I love that so much. Oh, boy. And so, like, also what's interesting, Rebecca Romaine, she now has two things in common with her husband, Jerry O'Connell. They've both starred in Star Trek shows. He was on Lower Decks as like the commander or whatever. And now they both done dinosaur episodes because he's from a show called Sliders and they had 2 dino episodes and stuff. And so at one point in time when they're talking, and I think maybe they discover like an alien crash ship or something like that, some velociraptors show up and they actually have feathers the way that many people believe they did. So they're not like the scaly looking thing like in Jurassic Park. You do have your scaly dinosaurs in this show and you got the kind with the feathers as well. It's weird knowing dinosaur had feathers, man. Like, I'm used to them just being giant lizard looking things, But anyways, so, like, La'an does something that just completely took me out of it. They're walking, and a velociraptor sneaks up on them. She turns around, and she just punches it in the face, and it takes off running. I'm just like, that's how you show that she's related to Khan, her punching a velociraptor? Which later on in the episode, she when she's getting examined by Obanga and everything, and with Nurse Chapel, she tells them, hey, look, I've been feeling kind of weird ever since that Vulcan episode, but I haven't told nobody. And my hand is completely broken, but I don't feel nothing. And so something is happening with her with a metamorphosis, and Obanga jokes around. You're not going to try to take over like the galaxy or anything like that, are you? And so I'm kind of curious to know what they're going to do with her. If they really truly want to have some amazing stakes in season 5, the final season and everything, they're going to have to do something big. There needs to be a lot of sad moments in the finale, in my opinion, because they created 2 brand new characters in this show. One is Ortegas, and one is, of course, La'an, and and Palia, and we don't know their fate because they're created for this show. So why weren't they in TOS? We need a really good explanation. I don't want to see no crap like in Discovery. Oh, I just quit Starfleet. Or, oh, I became a teacher. Kill somebody off. You know what I'm saying? Like, do something big and bold. It's the final season next season. Then you got like characters like Obanga, and you have to wonder why he's no longer the doctor aboard like the Enterprise. We know he has a lot of PTSD for killing tons of Klingons, but why? And just other little things, So before all that dino adventure happened, up in space, the Enterprise gets attacked by like an unknown ship, and it has them in a tractor beam. And so Pike hails the ship, and they're all like, we don't recognize your ship. We don't know what no Federation is or Starfleet, but your ship looks of value, and we're gonna salvage it and everything, and we're gonna use it to fight in our war. And we need to determine if you are our enemy working for the what's that alien name? Oh, I can't remember the Dol'drm or something like that. I think that's what they're called. Um, and so nobody on the Enterprise have even heard of that alien species. And so Pike's all like, "Hey, look, come to the ship and everything, so we can talk." And she's like, "Oh, you're gonna show us your weapons and show us like all this other stuff?" He's like, "No, but or you're gonna give it to us and stuff like that." But so Spock is all like, "Look, they ain't never heard of us. They're probably a pre-warp civilization, and they shouldn't be on the ship because they could try to steal our technology." Anyways, they literally phase through the wall and the bulkhead and everything. I'm all like, how the heck did they go from their ship out into outer space where there's no air and it's cold and there's tons of the debris particles always floating around in space, and just phase through the bulkhead of the Enterprise? They said, "Oh, what, you don't have phasing technology and blah blah blah," but they never explain how they did that. Now, okay, if they have phasing technology to go from one ship to another ship where both ships are connected to each other, I will buy that. But how did they float around in space and go through like the other ship? That's what I want to know. And like I said before, I love Commander Cecil and everything. Like, I just love her presence. And so she's talking with Pike, and they're learning about each other and this and that. And the biggest discovery of them all is that the planet that the away team on is Earth, which is that's how they was able to communicate with them and tell them, hey, where they're at and blah blah blah. But the planet in which Cecil and all them were gonna take them to was Mars. I'm all like, Mars? Hold up now. This is a Martian? I was expecting like a green person or something like that. They look more like Vulcans and everything with the pointy ears. And they even had those weird tattoos like in JJ's Romulans and stuff. That later got transferred over into this Trek show, even though they're completely different universes. And I'm just kind of like, okay, this is technically Trek, and their aliens do look very humanoid. So, okay, cool, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, as they're just talking, Pike is just kind of like, she wants their weapons and other stuff. And he's like, look, I ain't giving you this stuff. That's just not what we do. But why don't you talk to these Dol'drm people or whatever? And she's all like, we can't. We're unable to communicate with them and everything like that. And so they're like an insectoid like species. And Pike's all like, hey, look, we got some experiences. Let us look on our ship and figure some stuff out and this and that. You know what I'm saying? And so while he's on the bridge and the crew is trying to figure out how to communicate with this bug-like species, I'm all thinking a bug-like species. This can't be the Zindi from back in the day, but who knows? You know what I'm saying? And then Scotty lets them know that like Cecil pretty much phased into like engineering installed the antimatter like reactor or whatever, or some type of device that's antimatter, and he couldn't stop them. Now, back on the planet and everything, like the away team, they find this alien species in some type of like stasis unit, but they're dead. And I couldn't quite see their faces. I didn't really know what they looked like. And the ship looked really alien. But on their ship, they was able to find that type of material they needed to turn their systems back on and stuff. And so, they hightail it on out there away from the dinosaurs and like stuff like that. And so back on the Enterprise, Cecil pretty much tells Kirk, like, hey, look, I've been honest with you and everything, but you lied to me. You didn't tell me you was from the future. Now, one cool thing about Cecil is that she's really good at reading people and figuring things out just by how they saying it. Like when Pike said he's alone, she realized that he must have lost like a loved one or something like that. But then it's like she realized, well, hold up, she's never heard of this Federation. And, their technology is very advanced. And speaking of being very advanced, how are they not able to get out the tractor beam? Their tractor beam is 65 million years old. The Enterprise should have used some type of anti-graviton emissions or something on a bulkhead or wiggle on out of there. But anyway, then she looked at computer monitors and this and that and started seeing her home planet and how it was a barren wasteland and all this other crap. And she realized that they're from the future. He's been deceiving them and this and that. And she's all like, look, I need to stop this species because one of their ships crash landed on my planet or whatever. It destroyed millions of lives and this and that. And we are at war with them. And so she wants to prevent Mars from being a barren, like cold wasteland and everything with ice and all this other crap. And so she's going to use the weapon no matter what. And like Pike now has a very difficult decision to make. Their systems aren't really working. They can only rig up one torpedo and everything. And so he's going to have to take her ship out. Or at least deflect the anti-gravity, not antimatter, like reactor thingy or whatever it is they shot at the planet, right? Now, here's the interesting thing about the Dol'drm. Spock realized something. Their home planet is the fifth one from the sun. So Pike thinks it's Jupiter and everything. But he's like, no, it's a completely different planet with insects and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, that don't make no freaking sense. And then Pike realized something. He had to make that command decision. Instead of firing on like the ship or like the anti matter thing, because once she detonates it, her ship is going to be in the aftershock of it, and she pretty much like going to sacrifice herself. He realizes something. In his time, this planet is not there. This species is not there. Martians are not there and everything. And so, like, it's to the point where he's gonna have to let two planets, or one planet and two civilizations die. Because history said so. And if he interferes in it, then there's no telling what future they might go to. That's a hard decision to make. The genocide of two alien species. And the ship crewmates are very shocked that he came to this conclusion, but he had to, And there we see it. It detonates, it destroys that planet. And then, like, the shockwave destroys that of Cecil's like ship. And then so Spock realizes something. Instead of trying to get away from the shockwave, we need to go inside it. Because like it's enough like, quantitons and all this other stuff that they need and stuff like that. And like fusion or I forget what they call it, like to pretty much jump them back into the future. Makes no sense, but whatever, I'll buy it. It's sci-fi, even though Star Trek supposed to be more realistic, but sometimes it's not. Hey, whatever, I'll buy it. I mean, heck, if Spock can, like, what is it, slingshot around the sun and go back in time, then why not? You know what I'm saying? And so now they're back in the present day. And they realize something. They realize that like some of the like asteroids created by like the explosion of the planet, one of them hit Earth, killing the dinosaurs. Then, because of the shockwave, it knocked Mars out of orbit and it's further away from the sun. It gets cold, now there's ice forming, and the people there die. So she tried to prevent the massacre of like her planet, but she ended up killing everybody anyway. And so, but then Obanga literally tells them, tells Pike, you know what I'm saying, that like Martians actually survive because he can find their DNA in other alien species. And so a few of them did escape and everything, and they just breeded with other species. But still, man, like the weight of this episode, it hits deep. But then Ortega's is kind of like, so in order for us to create life on Earth, we had to show up and create it by not like letting people live. My theory is this: events would have played out as normal back in the day in the original timeline. For whatever reason, the Dol'drm and the Martians, you know, like the Dol'drm planet like exploded for whatever reason, and it still, you know, killed the dinosaurs and knocked Mars off the orbit and everything. The Enterprise going back in time, they just kind of helped push that along, you know what I'm saying? So Pike turns down his promotion, but he gives it to number one, making her a full commander. Which, that surprised me. I already assumed she was a commanding officer. I mean, he calls her number one and everything like that. But it turns out she's just a lieutenant commander. And I thought to myself, this would have been a perfect way for her to be like a captain and get her off this ship because she's not supposed to be in TOS. And this would have been a better in-canon reason other than the network just didn't want her and stuff. And so then they made her into the chapel actress and stuff, or a character. So yeah, I'm really thrilled by like how this episode turned out. And we even got Sam Kirk, which that's the only Kirk I want in this show, which speaking of, let me Photoshop this for a second. Okay, this is how this picture should be. No Kirk. He has no business being in like the promotional picture. Pelia should at least be in it because she's on the show, but of course she's not because she's just a recurring, but he's recurring. I'm sick and tired of them shoving James T. Kirk down our throats. The man has no business being in the show. Have Sam Kirk all in there you want, and I'll be fine with that. But yeah, I really loved how deep and emotional this episode was. Like, that is good Trek. Like, you know, making that hard decision, you know, that is old Trek. You know what I'm saying? Not having a bunch of stupid slang terms and all this other stuff and modern clothes, that's not Trek. I hate that. That is not Trek. But this, in this episode, this is so Trekking. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.